This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Twitter.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com. You can also like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. And you can also check out our annual live event in Irvington, just east of downtown Indianapolis, at ShocktoberInIrvington.com. This year's Shocktober in Irvington, it's a one-night event screening of short horror films from local filmmakers. This year's Shocktober in Irvington is this Friday, October 12th. So I need to get this episode posted as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Tickets are on sale, ShocktoberInIrvington.com. It's going to be a great night. Seating's limited. We do have a cash bar, courtesy of Geeking in Indiana. So find tickets and more information at ShocktoberInIrvington.com. And as always, episode sponsor is Horror Movie Yearbook, which you can find at HM Yearbook on Twitter and at HorrorMovieYearbook.com. So, Tiny, are you prepared for Shocktober in Irvington?
I am prepared.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you excited?
Very excited because I missed the new venue last year. I haven't been there.
You did,
yeah.
And I'm excited for you. It's like we've got the team back together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's gonna be booze. I mean,
there is.
It's always a good thing.
Earlier, before we started recording, when I asked you what your schedule was for Friday, I will admit I was fishing a little bit because I wanted to see what time you were planning on getting to the venue.
Okay.
Because I wanted to see if you could give me a ride because I plan on getting hammered.
Nice.
Not really. I don't really plan on getting hammered, but I'll have my brother take me or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe Chad will pick me. I don't know because I've got to get there early and we've got everything to set up and everything. It's going to be so awesome. But yeah, so yeah, this is our fifth fucking year doing it.
Fifth year, half a decade.
I don't know why I just dropped the F-bomb there, but yeah.
Well, it's alliterative and fifth fucking year.
Yep. It's the fifth freaking year, you freaks. Yeah, so it's super exciting. Like, I was thinking about that. Like, I had a really nice, messenger conversation with, JP Leck, who is the one filmmaker who will have submitted short films to all 5 Shocktober in Irvingtons.
Yes.
Dude is a freaking rock star. It was awesome.
He is.
Cause like today I was listening to all the old Shocktober in Irvington episodes, which I'll put links to each one in the show notes of this episode. And it's so cool cause like in the first one, he's talking about how he's like, well, I've got the novels and, now I'm just starting to do the short films and everything. And the plan is to do it each year. And we want to do like radio plays and comic books and everything. And like, here it is 5 years later and dude's done all that. Like he has a yearly like radio show and he did it's insane.
He's a machine for real.
He really is.
He's married and has children and a full-time job.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And by the way, his third book just came out.
Yep.
Very recently, The Tremendously Endless. Mm-hmm. Haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I would definitely will.
Yeah. And if you come to Shocktober in Irvington, listeners, you will have a chance to win a copy of not only his third book, but his first book, second book, and a copy of the aforementioned comic book.
Nice.
So, yeah, so come to Shocktober in Irvington. Again, that's October 12th, 2018 at the Playground Productions Studio in Irvington on Bonna Avenue. Go to ShocktoberInIrvington.com for more details. So yeah, Tiny, today's kind of a big episode, but, we'll preface it, but yeah, it's, do you want to tell the listeners what episode number they're listening to?
This is number 250.
Right? 250 episodes, 5 years.
Yes.
I think it's time to call it a day.
Funny you should mention, I just emailed you my letter of resignation.
I can only dish out these jokes. Please don't take this away from me.
Regret to inform you.
Please, this podcast is all I have.
Your cat is sitting in your lap as you say that.
She's so precious.
She can hear you.
Oh, it's okay.
It's okay, Pizza. You can come live with us.
Oh.
Play with Gizmo.
Oh my god, I think that they would be like best friends.
Do you?
Yeah. It's funny because she won't listen to this, but the last couple of times that Kirsten's been over here and we've recorded and everything, Pizza has been really
aggressive towards her.
Towards her.
That's crazy. And she's a cat person.
And she's a cat person. And like she was kind of traumatized by it. She's like, cats like me. That's my thing.
Right.
And it's funny because like I was thinking about it a month or so ago when Fecus was on. There's a small moment in the episode where you can hear Pizza meow because she was coming up and he was petting her and everything, and the mic picked up the meow. So so at the end of every episode now, in addition to hearing my very effeminate voice saying kitty at the end of every episode, just as a little tag, you also get a little snippet of a meow in there because I isolated it and put it over there.
That's cute.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that Fecus, that got picked up when Fecus was over here recording. Now Pizza's literally laying in my lap while you, who are allergic to her, are sitting right next to her. And but when Kirsten's here, it's like she bolts into the bedroom.
Oh my gosh.
She hides under the bed. But I was going to tell her, my dream is that when Kirsten is over here, and we're recording or watching a movie or something, my dream is to have Pizza's relationship with Kirsten be nice enough to where Pizza would feel comfortable laying on the couch while Kirsten and I are on the couch.
Right.
And yeah.
Well, I would say poor Kirsten, but I mean that's kind of a huge boost to my self-esteem.
I know. Yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
I'm kidding. I've literally never pet your cat. Not by choice, but because I can't.
God. So much is my mind is just going.
I've never pet.
Wow.
Pizza. I can't for
Why don't
our
you
listeners.
try it?
Well,
do you have an EpiPen?
I don't. It wouldn't be that bad. The thing is, in the past when I pet cats, I forget that I pet them, and then I rub my eye with that hand or scratch something on my face, and if it's just on my hand, it's not a big deal. I can go wash my hands.
Right.
But if I get it on my face, I don't know, don't go there. But no, if I get it on my face, it just puffiness, itchiness, eye waters, and then sneezing galore.
Okay, that's fair.
So that's why she's very cute.
I know she's so cute.
And she's soft, I assume.
She's so soft, it's ridiculous.
I love to pet her, but I can't.
And she's so precious. I tweeted this, we'll get into the actual episode. But I tweeted this the other night that Pizza likes to attack my hand sometimes. If I hide it under the covers and then I peek it out, she'll think it's her prey or something, and she'll attack it. So every time she did that the other night, I kept yelling. I would pull my hand away before she could get it, and then I'd be like, "I'm gonna punch your little butt. I'm gonna punch your little butt."
Oh my god.
And yeah, so I'm pretty sure my neighbors think I'm even more weird.
Or gay.
No, well,
This has been the Obsessive Meower.
It is, oh my god. The Obsessive Meower.
We're not doing it.
Pizza. No,
you and Kirsten can do it.
It's okay. Oh, I've already pitched the KittyCast.
Oh my god. The KittyCast. Do you smell Gizmo? Do you smell Gizzy Bear?
Gizzy Bear, that's adorable.
Yeah.
So anyway, this episode is our 250th episode.
250.
And so to commemorate the 250th episode of The Obsessive Viewer, we each picked a movie that is on the IMDb Top 250 as voted by IMDb users. We each picked a movie from that list for the other to watch. So I selected for Tiny 1954's Rear Window from Alfred Hitchcock, which is number 43 on the IMDb Top 250.
Okay.
And Tiny, you selected for me David Lynch's 1980 movie The Elephant Man, which is number 147 as of this recording. Recording today, October 9th, 2018.
Subject to change.
Subject to change. So we're each going to review those movies here in just a moment. But as we are wont to do, there's some news to kind of go over. News. So news broke today that James Gunn, the director and writer from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, who was, I won't editorialize, who was removed from the Guardians franchise, by Disney, some time ago when old, provocative and, shocking, provocative, tasteless. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
Joke tweets surfaced. It was I don't know if it was officially announced today, but basically the headlines read that James Gunn was in talks to write and maybe direct Suicide Squad 2.
Right.
So this is an interesting turn of events in that clearly the kind of elephant in the room, the kind of rear window in the room is that he's going from Marvel to DC. And I kind of see that as kind of maybe not intentional or not. It kind of seems like a kind of a middle finger to Disney.
It's got to be intentional.
Yeah. Which is kind of hilarious to me because I'm on the side of things where, like, I don't agree with anything that he tweeted or anything, but given the circumstances, I don't think he should have lost his job over it since it was before. It was another lifetime essentially for him.
Right.
That those tweets were made. So I don't know. We've talked a lot about that kind of thing. Have we gotten your read on it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it was an overreaction.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, who is Disney to be making comments or to, be making judgments about, cultural sensitivity and inappropriate things, Disney doesn't have the best track record either.
Right.
So yeah, I think it was an overreaction, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of any studio or company firing a person, an employee, for having an opinion that doesn't have anything to do with their job.
Yeah.
Like even this is a weird poll, but the Duck Dynasty people.
Oh yeah.
Their show got canceled, and I disagreed completely with their opinion.
I forgot. I don't even remember the controversy.
I don't even remember either, but there was some kind of political opinion they had that was uberly conservative and religious, and it people didn't like it, and they canceled the show, and I was like, I mean, yeah, I don't agree with it either, but I think a lot of their base kind of agrees with it, and I don't think it would really negatively affect the show. It might, I don't know. I was just like, I'm not a fan of the censorship, censoring someone, just so they can keep their job. I don't like that. So, yeah, I mean, I am in support of James Gunn. I wish he was still, on the Disney kick or whatever, on their paycheck still, payroll, and still set to do the third Guardians movie and all that shit.
Well, that's the thing. We haven't talked about this part of the story on the podcast, but about a week or two ago, there was an article where Sean Gunn, who is James Gunn's brother, who plays one of the Ravagers in the Guardians movies, and he does the mocap for Rocket Raccoon on set. He said that from his understanding, he believes that the plan is still for Disney to use James Gunn's Guardians 3 script.
Oh, okay.
But bring on a different director.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's not confirmed or anything. It's kind of a secondhand source, I guess. But, and I posted a long thing on the Facebook page about this. I just think that that's shitty. I think that that's because granted, yes, the tweets were highly offensive, and just really just gross and provocative and just not they were despicable tweets about, molestation, rape, and just very tasteless jokes. But they were written long before he had any connection to Disney. They were dug up specifically by conservative trolls who wanted to stir up shit for him and his livelihood, and they succeeded in that.
Yeah.
So to do that, and then Disney doubled down on that and said well, it's final. We're not hiring him back or anything. They had a meeting with him and the head of the studio. That kind of seemed from what I could gather and from what people are inferring from it, was that it was just kind of a courtesy meeting, that they were never going to like consider rehiring him or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like Disney's announcement was that they severed their professional relationship with James Gunn. And like, okay, you want to do that you're, like you said, Tiny, Disney doesn't have the greatest track record for being, you know, sensitive to issues or anything, in its history. But like, they're saying specifically that James Gunn, like the tweets that James Gunn tweeted before he was under contract with Disney at all, are not in keeping with the core values of the company. Yet, if Sean Gunn's statements are to be believed, so like the tweets are abhorrent enough to like remove him from everything Disney related forever, sever their relationship. But they're not bad enough to where they can still use his script. Like that's
right. That's
having their cake and eating it too.
Yes,
like,
yes.
That's just yeah. I mean, it's not every day that you lose a lot of respect for one of the biggest corporations in the world, really.
Right. It's like they're washing their hands without using any soap.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
your analogy was better.
Yeah, well, I was gonna make a really childish and insensitive and horrible joke that would have clearly been a joke, but someday I want to adapt The Dark Tower, so I can't.
Nice.
But yeah, so
I just love how Warner Brothers is like, we don't care if you made rape jokes. Come make our crappy sequel.
Yeah. But yeah, you saw the original Suicide Squad, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about James Gunn taking the reins of Suicide Squad 2?
So I love it from the perspective of it being a middle finger to Disney. Mm-hmm. I just love that he's like kind of trolling them, essentially. Yeah. Like, that's awesome. That's great. But like, I don't know. I think he's talented enough to make a solid flick. Mm-hmm. But I don't necessarily want him to waste his time with it.
Right.
If you will. I don't know. Cause I don't really care about that quote unquote franchise.
Right.
Suicide Squad franchise. It's just not that interesting. And I don't know.
Yeah. And it seems like Warner Brothers and DC is a sinking ship anyway.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
The optimist in me is like, well, maybe James Gunn can steer the ship and like make something that could rejuvenate the brand. Cause I mean, Wonder Woman was good, but what else do they have?
Yeah. I think, like you said, DCEU is a burning ship or whatever. Like,
yeah.
I don't think the DCEU can be saved.
No. Have you seen the trailer for Aquaman?
I think so. I don't know.
That's the thing. I've seen it like twice in the theater, and I keep thinking like, oh wow, I forgot that the trailer was released, and then I was like, oh, I should tweet about it. And then I see a movie, and it's just like
right.
nothing.
It's like, yeah.
It slips my mind. But I will say, there's a scene early in the trailer where I don't know if the right word is to say crashes into a submarine, but he comes through the hatch of a submerged submarine, and he falls into the hull, I guess. Mm-hmm. And he's standing there like shirtless, as Jason Momoa is wont to do.
Right.
And like the shot is from his back, and he just kind of turns his head. He kind of turns his head over, so he's kind of like looking over his shoulder at the camera, and he's like, permission to come aboard, with a little smirk.
Oh, Jesus.
And every time I see it, I'm like, I kind of want to see Aquaman.
That's funny. I'm going to have to watch the trailer now.
Yeah, it's so, like, I don't know. At this point, I take the DC movies as they come.
Right. I finally watched Justice League like 3-4 months ago.
What'd you think?
It was meh. Yeah. The casting is so great. Mm-hmm. Every time I see Jason Momoa or even Ben Affleck as Batman, I think that's a great casting.
Oh yeah.
Everybody is great.
I loved Ezra Miller in it.
Yeah, Ezra Miller.
He was great.
Great, awesome. The script is just so mediocre.
Yeah.
And the story was, like, who gives a crap?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The CGI was horrible.
The CGI was so bad.
It looked like a cutscene from a video game from the last generation.
Yes. Very much so.
It was
just so many mistakes.
Yeah, I agree. And then they have the whole Joker standalone movie that's not going to be related to anything.
Right.
Going. Have you seen any of that stuff?
I have,
Phoenix?
Yeah, with Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips is.
Yeah, Todd Phillips.
I'm more optimistic about that because I don't feel like they're kind of overplaying their hand, if you will, or trying to shoehorn everything into one freaking movie.
Yeah.
Just overbloating everything. It doesn't feel like they have too many balls in the air. I don't know if the Joker ever juggled, but that pun not intended.
Well, Clown Prince of Crime.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm much more optimistic about the Joker, the Todd Phillips Joker movie than anything else. But like you said, I'm going to see it because Jason Momoa is awesome. Like like you mentioned, he was shirtless as he's wont to do. Why would you ever wear a shirt?
I know, right?
If you go on, I mean, if I looked like that dude, it could be 3 degrees outside. Be walking out with a shirt on.
Yeah.
So
like I'm a super straight guy, but like when super straight guy, that sounds so.
Are you overcompensating, man?
Overcompensating. I am a straight male.
Yeah.
But like when he's like permission to come aboard, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Sure. Come on in. Yeah, I mean, I think there's still something to how a superhero looks. Like you can nail the look. And I think basically everyone in the DCEU so far is kind of nailing the look. Yeah. And that gives me a little bit of encouragement and excitement to want to see the movie.
Jared Leto notwithstanding.
Jared Leto, yeah, that's true. But
Joaquin
fumbled that one. Joaquin Phoenix looks good.
And if I think that in theory, this Todd Phillips Joker movie, like it kind of seems like DC and Warner Brothers, they're like, yeah, this whole shared universe thing, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. This is not going well. Let's just do these standalone things and play with that. And like, I'm on board with that. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. That's how you're supposed to start. You're supposed to build off those things.
Oh yeah.
And the way Marvel did.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Aquaman trailer looks, and there's another part where, he and I think it's Amber Heard, are in a plane flying over the desert, and she just jumps out of the plane. She's like, "Oh, we've got to go," or something. And then like the pilot's like, "Did she have she didn't have a parachute." And then Jason Momoa just looks at him, and I think that there's like a goat or something in a cage. No idea why.
Yeah.
But he looks at the pilot and he's like, "Redheads, gotta love them," and then jumps out of the plane.
Oh my god!
Like that kind of thing. I'm like, okay, you have my attention, James Wan.
Wow.
So I don't know. Maybe it'll be good, but that comes out in December.
Yeah.
Anything else on news?
I don't think so. Okay. Yes. Pet Sematary.
Oh yes.
Trailer drops on the 11th.
The trailer drops tomorrow on the 10th.
10th tomorrow.
Yep.
I thought today was the 10th.
Nope. Today's the 9th.
I can never remember anymore.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
The poster looks so cool.
The set photos that they released. All good things.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Jason Clarke as Louis Creed. John Lithgow as Judge Crandall.
Yeah. Terrific casting.
That cat as Church.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm liking everything I'm seeing so far.
Me too. So I can't wait to see the trailer tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's news. And as we said, this is our 250th episode of The Obsessive Viewer, and we each picked a top 250 movie for each of us to watch. So, Tiny, for you, I chose Hitchcock's Rear Window, which we should say, like, you hadn't seen, I had seen. And with Elephant Man, I hadn't seen and you had seen.
Right.
So, as I mentioned before, Rear Window is number 43 on the top 250 and directed by Alfred Hitchcock and from 1954. So, Tiny, what did you think of Rear Window? And if you wouldn't mind reading the plot summary courtesy of IMDb.
Sure. The plot summary says, a wheelchair-bound photographer spies on his neighbors from his apartment window and becomes convinced one of them has committed murder. Of course I really like the movie. I figured I would. I mean, anything by Hitchcock I've seen is great. You know, he's a legend, and I love Jimmy Stewart and all that. So I didn't have any preconceived notions that I wasn't going to really like this movie. Having said that, I think it kind of drags quite a bit. Like, for a movie from 1954, the fact that it's just over just under 2 hours, hour 52 minutes. That's for the time was a long run time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say something stupid, but like, I don't know if Alfred Hitchcock knew how to balance that, or like maybe he just drug it out too much a little bit. But I think it dragged a little bit in the second act, especially. So there was that. But I mean, I also feel like even though the script dragged and the story dragged a little bit, I feel like it's one of those movies where you can't take your eyes off the two leads.
Yeah.
Of Jimmy Stewart and Grace Kelly. They're just, first of all, their chemistry is fantastic. I feel like, you know, that's something that you can't teach, or, you know, you just pray that you have chemistry that good on a film. And, I think it pours off screen in this movie. Yep.
Especially confined to that one set.
Yes.
It's just, it really, drives the movie.
Right.
For me, at least.
Right. So those two performances just keep you glued to the screen. And then all the other performances of all the huge cast of neighbors and everyone involved in this film, like there's a remarkable amount of acting without speaking.
Yep.
Which is a challenge in and of itself, but it's also acting without speaking from a distance.
Yep.
Like if you think about the physical distance between the camera and a person giving their performance, that's just logistically challenging, but also as an actor, you know, you have no cue, no physical cue to tell you, you know, where you're supposed to be directing your emotion, like what physical direction you're supposed to be conveying your emotion to, and how you're if your body language is being picked up through the window, you know, like it seems like so logistically challenging. And just, it's an incredible feat that, you know, the credit for that goes to Alfred Hitchcock. But what really blew me away was the actors being able to have such, for lack of a better word, deep characters who never say a word.
Yep.
You never hear them say a word. It's really incredible. And then you mentioned the set.
Yes.
I was like, the opening scene, I was like, this is terrible podcasting, but my mouth just kept opening more and more as they revealed more of the set. I was like, holy shit. It's like 4 stories tall.
Yep.
And it's literally a city block of New York. I was like, dang, where did they, like, I bet the set constructor was like, really, Al? Really? We got 3 weeks to put this thing together. Like, I bet he was pissed.
Yeah.
Cause it's just amazing. And like all the detail, there's cars going by in this tiny little slit in between buildings where you can see the street, but there's constantly foot traffic. There's cars going by. There's people in the restaurant that you can't even really see, but like all those little details are there.
It's incredible.
It's a remarkable set. So incredible.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I had watched this recently within the last few months, and kind of a peek behind the curtain. I tried to kind of watch it kind of intermittently during work as background noise. Which, I mean, like sometimes I'll download movies from Amazon or Netflix and kind of have them playing in the background. Usually it's movies that I'm familiar with, like, you know, any number of movies that I've seen multiple times. That way I can kind of just listen to it while I work.
Right.
And I thought, you know, I might try this with Rear Window because I've been wanting to see it, because I think I saw it once when I was like a kid. And then, like, in the first 5 minutes, I was like, no, this is a movie I need to watch.
Yeah, you gotta watch this
You need to devote your full attention to this movie.
Right.
Which I don't really, and as an aside, I don't really watch movies at work anymore. Cause it's just, like, I'll download, like, a stand-up comedy special and then listen to it, but that's the extent of my, movie watching at work.
Gotcha.
For the most part. So anyway, yeah, continue.
Well, and then from a, you know, what also jumped out at me was from a, you know, just all the logistical challenges of this film. Like I said, filming actors from dozens, if not 100 yards away, which is really challenging. And also, I think it was really important that for just tonal effect, that you literally never leave that apartment. Like, you're there for every single frame.
Yep.
And that just, I didn't understand how, until the movie ended, I didn't understand how integral that was for, like, audience immersion and the, you know, you really force the audience to participate in this voyeurism and in the plot, because you're stuck there just like Jeff is. You know, you're stuck in that apartment, and you feel it. I think that's part of maybe why I felt the drag in the second act. I think it is a bit of a flaw of the film, but I also think it's maybe Alfred Hitchcock. It was intentional. He wanted you to get a little bit bored because, you know, Jeffries was bored the whole movie, and that's hence the onus for the plot. So that was a really clever aspect of the film, and I think it was highly effective, and I don't think it was an accident. I think did Alfred Hitchcock write this as well?
No.
See, I really should have looked up on the facts, read up on the facts, but
I don't know. I don't really know.
Written by John Michael Hayes, based on a short story by Cornell Woolrich. So he didn't write it, but I would assume it was like an intentional thing that, like, we cannot leave this apartment. The camera will never leave the apartment. Just a really great choice, that worked well in the movie. And then the, you know, Alfred Hitchcock is called the master of suspense for a reason. Like I said, I think the first act is set up and it's very interesting. The second act kind of develops characters a little more, drags a little bit. Then that third act, you're just like glued to your seat, and the suspense, without spoiling it, there's a moment of realization in the film. And from it's the climax, kind of in the climax area. From that moment forward, it's like super, super tense.
Yeah.
Like it's like suspense that I think, you know, my knowledge of the films from the 40s, 50s, and 60s isn't perfect. It's not extensive, but I can't imagine there were many other directors who could achieve that kind of tension with mid-century technology, with, you know, trends of the time and stuff like that. I haven't seen a lot of movies from this time period where someone was capturing tension and suspense that way. Like, I think Alfred Hitchcock is completely unique, so far ahead of his time for that technique of storytelling and filmmaking that it's amazing how well it holds up today.
Yeah.
For example, like I don't think it's a big spoiler, but there's a part, you know, the main character is literally looking out his window this entire movie. And, not the entire movie, but like that's, you know, he's looking out his window. That's so much of the film, and no one is aware of what he's doing the whole time. Right. But then that drops on a dime, completely different. And he's looking through a telephoto lens, and someone looks to him directly through that lens. From like my wife, like, screamed a little bit. Really? When that happened. Like, it freaked her out. And I think that actor, Raymond Burr, I don't know if they made him really tired and his eyes were bloodshot or what it was, but the way he looked into that lens, like, freaked her out, and it kind of freaked me out too. Nice. And there's a lot of stuff with his eyes, I think, in the climax of the film. And from that point forward, my wife was like freaking out. She's like, oh, Jesus. She kept, like, you know, like audibly, like,
that's so
being scared.
awesome.
And like, that's how effective it was.
Nice.
And I was kind of along for the ride with her. I'm not a pansy, but I was like, oh my God, he's just like walking through the door. Like, this is just, I can't believe where this is going. And throughout the movie, I was thinking, you know, the main character has this theory that this guy committed a murder. And I was thinking the whole time that the story was going to go, this guy did not commit a murder, but one of his other neighbors did, and he didn't pick up on the cues. That's what I thought. That's how I thought the movie was going to end.
Right. Oh, that would have been it.
That's not what happens.
Right.
And so I was like really surprised, like, oh wow, I really didn't think this was going to happen. I was genuinely surprised by it, but, and there is there's a moment or a scene that I assume is famous. I had never seen it before, but where Jimmy Stewart is hanging off of a window ledge, and he falls off that window ledge.
Yeah. I think that might be maybe a little bit confused with Vertigo.
Okay, you might be right.
Yeah.
That might be what I'm thinking of. But anyways, it holds up relatively well. Like if you take into consideration how advanced our technology is, we can literally do anything we want in a movie.
Right.
Well, at the time, given all the constrictions of technology and what was reasonably possible, to show a person falling off the edge of a building was just about impossible. And I think what they managed to do it in this film, I think it looked pretty well. It looked pretty good, and I think it held up pretty well. And it was,
I agree,
genuinely suspenseful and shocking, and just well done. But it's such a good movie. I mean, I knew I was gonna like it, and like I thought I might. I'm not sure if I ended up loving it as much as I thought I would.
Okay,
but I'm sitting here racking my brain trying to think of like, okay, what can I say about this movie that I didn't like?
Right.
What can I say about this movie that was a mistake or should have been done better? And there's almost nothing.
Right.
Like I said, the little bit of I think it could have been maybe a little bit of editing in there, make it, an hour and 40 minutes instead of an hour and 50. But who's to say if that would make it actually improve the pacing of it? I really don't know. But
now, do you think that the mystery that surrounds the movie and surrounds the plot, do you think that if you go back and watch it again, do you feel like you'll have kind of a bit of like diminishing returns watching it, knowing like what all happens in it? Or was the mystery of that first viewing, the mystery of what's going on, was that not did that not drive it as much as like the visual styles and the filmmaking techniques did for you?
I think the style and the technique is always going to stand out for me upon rewatching it, and I do want to see it again.
Yeah.
I feel like the ending and like the approach to the climax itself, and then the denouement are probably one of the best I've ever seen. Frankly.
Nice.
I think it's that good. So I feel like that's going to be the primary focus of my memory of this film. And so if I watch it again, it's going to be kind of appreciating what I'm watching, but really just waiting for that
Okay.
shoe to drop, if you will.
Sure.
For that. And that's probably, the movie's an hour and 50 minutes. That's probably hour and a half, hour 30 mark.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like kind of, not to say that 90 minutes is going to be a chore.
Right.
But it's going to be all anticipation for that last 20 minutes. So, and again, I don't think that's a fault of the film. I can't criticize that,
Right.
but, because that's my own personal reaction to it. But I'm also going to remember the opening scene where we see this unbelievable set.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to remember that too, and that's going to stand out for me as a movie fan forever, probably. So, it's in the top 250. It's in a lot of top 100 lists for a reason.
Yeah.
It's a damn good movie, an incredible achievement.
Oh, absolutely.
In suspense and just filmmaking techniques. Really incredible movie.
Totally agree. Like how awestruck I was when I saw like just the set, and just like we talked about, the view from the window is like insane. Like you were talking about how like the distance, how strong the performances from the silent neighbors can be when they're shooting it from a distance. Like you're exactly right. Like it makes it so much more impressive because that distance, you're not picking up as much of the nuances of the body language or anything as you would in like a tight shot or a shot like in the same freaking room.
Right.
Just really impressive filmmaking.
Absolutely.
Now, how many Hitchcock movies have you watched? Like, what's your relationship with Hitchcock?
It's not as extensive as it should be. But I've seen Vertigo, I've seen Psycho, I've seen North by Northwest. I've seen a lot of the staples. This was a huge blind spot. I don't know why I had never watched this.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if there was an official remake in like early 2000s, like as a Disturbia with Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, Disturbia. It wasn't like a direct remake, I don't think, but I think it was basically
the same movie.
Yeah,
or same premise at least. Mm-hmm. And I saw that and I was like, whatever. And I don't know if that like subconsciously turned me off from seeking this movie out.
Interesting.
But I knew it shouldn't, but maybe it did. So that's why it was a blind spot for me. But, so I think those 4 Hitchcock movies are kind of the big staples. The Birds as well.
Mm-hmm. Did you say you've seen that or haven't seen it?
I've seen parts of it. I haven't seen it all the way through.
I would recommend that should be your next one that you should watch.
Okay.
Cause it's again, talk about just impressive filmmaking in a different way.
Okay. I've also seen, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say The Birds.
Yeah.
It's insane. Just the stuff that they can do. Also, the lead actress is
Tippi Hedren, and like my mom was in the Marines with like her cousin or something, or her, I don't know. She was like in the she knew her, like she met her when my mom was in the Marines. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I've also seen, I think you've seen it too, because I think we watched it in school.
Okay.
Rope.
Oh yes.
We watched that in like sophomore English, and I remember that was like we've talked several times on the podcast about our early development as a movie fan, or like when we hit our teens and we really start to define or refine what it is we're fans of. And I remember when we watched that movie, our teacher, he was a good teacher, Mr. Dorman. D2, Derek Dorman, D2. So he kind of, I think either before we watched it or after, I think it was before, he told us how the movie is 3 takes. 3 30-minute takes.
Yeah.
And like the premise of the story is there's a dead body in a trunk during a party.
Yep.
And I don't even remember the plot that well.
I just recently rewatched it.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. Do you mind if I
go for it? Yeah.
Okay. To preface this, I watched it at work, so I didn't pay close attention. But basically, cat hair in my mouth.
Nice.
So basically, the plot is that these 2 intellectual men, they plan the quote unquote perfect murder, because the main guy is this nut job who thinks that he can pull off the perfect murder, because I think it's because he just doesn't value human life, because he views himself as better than everyone else, and his co-murderer person is kind of like a lackey. So the plot is that they murder this man, and they, like, moments before hosting a dinner party with all of his close friends and his parents.
Right.
And so they hide the body in the trunk, and the entire movie is them having the dinner party, interacting with people, the people not noticing, not realizing that there's a dead body of their friend or child. Not child, but, adult child. In the trunk. And then Jimmy Stewart plays one of their colleagues who kind of gets wise to them. And his performance, like, he is so, I guess, even suspicious throughout it. And then his performance builds toward this just outburst of just pent up aggression toward, like, it's so, God, he was amazing.
He was a great actor.
So good. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, Dorman had us watch it.
Yeah, but I remember, I'm pretty sure he told us before the movie started that it's filmed in 3 takes. And I was like, cause I think Hitchcock was a big proponent or a practicer of having, acts, like 3 distinct acts in a movie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the cuts are for the takes of the movie. And I remember sitting there just like my eyes glued to this movie the whole time, like, holy shit, there's no cuts in this damn movie. There's 2 cuts in the whole freaking movie. I was like, that is insane. And like, I think after that is when I started really becoming deeply appreciative of long takes in films and noticing things like editing.
Yeah.
And just, it was, I think it was semi-integral in my development as an obsessive viewer.
Nice.
Rope. And it's funny because I don't remember a lot about the movie. I just remember those really distinct technical aspects of it, and that's just about it. But I mean, I think that just speaks volumes to that a kid in 2003, 2004 was so blown away by a 50-year-old movie,
right?
And it was in school,
yeah.
And I still remember it now, and it was, you know, I'm a fan of this art form, and that moment, that movie in school was so integral to that. And, you know, Hitchcock, that speaks volumes for how integral education can be in the development of a fan of art, or, you know, it's part of that is why I'm such an obsessive viewer.
Nice.
You know,
nice.
And I think it's cool that I came to that realization in an educational setting.
That's so awesome.
So yeah, that's why the arts need to stay in school.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Of it. Anyways, yeah. So Rear Window was fantastic.
Yeah.
It deserves to be in top 100 lists. I think, like I said, that ending and the approach to the climax is probably one of the best I've ever seen. Just fantastic.
And to circle back to what you were saying about Disturbia and everything, I know that people are probably screaming at their phones now. It was remade as a TV movie in 1998 with Christopher Reeve.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which I think that is available on Amazon Prime. I really want to see it because obviously Christopher Reeve was paralyzed.
Right.
And I remember like that airing and it being a big deal because it's like, oh, Christopher Reeve playing the Jimmy Stewart role.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice. So yeah, I really liked it. I'm glad you picked it for me.
Nice.
And like, it forced me to watch it. And like, there's stuff for the podcast that like, I'm like, oh, I need to watch this for the podcast. And like, I'll sneak off to the basement to watch it or whatever. But
Right.
for this, I was like, I texted my wife and I was like, do you want to watch Rear Window with me? I was like, this is supposed to be one of the best movies ever made. It's Jimmy Stewart. I was like, I think you might like it. And she was like, yeah, let's watch it. And she loved it. She ended up liking it a lot.
Very
so,
nice.
it was a good experience for that reason too. So I might just force that on her a lot now. Just be like, hey, will you watch this with me so I can actually watch it for the podcast? And
I like that. I'll start assigning you more stuff.
Okay. It's gotta be good though.
Yeah. Well,
Or like you don't know my wife's tastes, so it's gonna be difficult. Oh man.
did you watch it on my Vudu account?
You know, I tried.
Really?
I don't know if it's because our internet is so shitty, but it kept like, we got to like the 6-minute mark, and it's, by the way, I don't think I mentioned this. The movie is really beautiful. Like the color, was it filmed for color? I don't even know that.
I think so, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was like remastered for color or something. The color in the movie is just incredible. Jimmy
Very
Stewart,
vibrant.
Jimmy Stewart has these steely blue eyes. And then the guy who played Doyle, the detective, his eyes are even bluer. And they just like jumped off the screen. All the incredible outfits that Grace Kelly wore.
Yeah.
Just beautiful color in the movie. Totally got sidetracked. But, so yeah, I was admiring the gorgeousness of the film. We got like 6.5 minutes in, and it said, the player isn't working right now or something. And you had to click OK and exit out. I was like, all right, it's just buffering or it's just being crappy. And we would try to play it, and it would play for like 10 seconds and then drop out again.
Jeez. So how'd you end up watching it?
We rented it on iTunes.
Oh.
Which we didn't have any trouble on iTunes. So I've never had any trouble with Vudu before, though.
See, that's weird, and that sucks, because I was going to say, because with Vudu, I've mentioned it before, like the disc to digital thing, I'm kind of digitizing my collection. I have a big ass box set of Hitchcock movies.
Yeah.
So I've done that to several movies, which, I mean, you could just borrow the DVDs I'm pointing to.
Right. Yeah, that would have been convenient. But,
yeah, I didn't even think of that. But if you want, you can borrow any of them.
Okay. Okay. Right on.
But yeah, anything else on Rear Window?
No, see it if you haven't. It's fantastic. It's a staple of film.
Yep.
It's a staple of film, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, do you want to tell the audience what you gave to me?
Yes, I picked for you The Elephant Man from 1980, and I've seen this movie twice, I think.
Okay.
I was on a huge John Lynch kick when I was a little bit younger, and this was one of his first movies, and I remember really, really loving this movie. Just the emotion of it, and just the incredible story that's behind it. So that's why I picked it for you.
Nice. So, yeah, so The Elephant Man, 1980, David Lynch movie.
David Lynch. I said John Lynch.
Oh, did you? Oh,
Maybe.
you must have gotten confused with John Hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so plot description, IMDb is a Victorian surgeon rescues a heavily disfigured man who is mistreated while scraping a living as a sideshow freak. Behind his monstrous facade, there is revealed a person of intelligence and sensitivity. So where to begin with The Elephant Man? First of all, it's a number 147 as of today on the IMDb Top 250. I'll preface this by saying a couple of things. One is that I'm not a huge David Lynch fan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, maybe that's a little disingenuous to say it like that, even because looking over his IMDb credits and stuff, really the only movie of his I've seen is Mulholland Drive, back in 2001. And that was back when I was in my, I love Fight Club and Memento, so every movie has to have some kind of twisty, mindfucky plot in order for me to think it's good phase.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I watched Mulholland Drive was twofold. One is because, I was 15 and I heard that there was, a twist ending to it. Mm-hmm. And two is I was 15 and I heard that there was a lesbian scene.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I don't really remember Mulholland Drive that well. I just remember it being kind of confusing.
Yeah.
And very surreal, I guess, even though I think that maybe it might be one of, well, aside from The Elephant Man, I feel like it could potentially be one of the more, accessible David Lynch movies.
Uh-huh.
But I've always kind of been intimidated by David Lynch in general. Just cause I mostly, it's mostly because like his reputation to me is kind of built around being this surreal filmmaker that's heavy on kind of weird and intense imagery. And I've kind of steered away from that because I'm kind of nervous about having that imagery in my brain. And The Elephant Man is no exception, because as terrible as it sounds, I kind of thought I just was gonna be kind of grossed out by the makeup effects.
Yeah.
Like, and the movie doesn't shy away from it at all. Like, it's
right.
John Merrick in the movie is horribly, horribly disfigured, and it's tough to watch. It's kind of disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also further preface this by saying that I was not in the right headspace to watch this movie.
Yeah.
Just because as we're recording, we are a few days away from Shocktober in Irvington. That same night, Shocktober, that same day is the first day of Heartland Film Festival. So basically I'm preoccupied with, Heartland and Shocktober in Irvington preparations, and also, in order for me to have the day off on Friday, I am working 10-hour shifts at work.
Oh boy.
Monday through Thursday. So, needless to say, I was not in the right headspace. I was distracted. So, my opinion on this movie is going to be colored by those, things.
Right.
I'll start by saying that, yes, the makeup effects were grotesque and it was tough to watch. But the human element of John Merrick's character and the human side of John Hurt's performance of that character really, I wouldn't even say that they really resonated with me, but it came through pretty clear. Like I said, I was pretty distracted, but I could appreciate the human story of The Elephant Man and how it really went to great lengths to show the compassion of humans, of human beings around John Merrick, like Anne Bancroft and Anthony Hopkins' characters, while also showing the darker side of people that just see him as a freak, like the head of the circus that he was a sideshow in, and then the nefarious men that still see him as a sideshow and still like they want like he is their entertainment to them.
Right.
And I feel like that dichotomy of being of having those different types of people in the movie against the backdrop of Victorian London, like this very elegant era, and how the idea of presenting him to like society is a big like stumbling point for him as a character. It was engaging. It was interesting, and at times I did find some emotional resonance with it, and I thought that it was heartfelt and touching, but other than that, it didn't really do much for me.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a very interesting stylistic choice into making it black and white, which I think really, really helped the movie. Like, if this was just shot conventionally, like in color, I think it wouldn't have been nearly as interesting to me as it was in black and white.
Yes.
Just because it just kind of has this antiquity to it that also has this, it brings you into in a weird way, it tricks you into being in the mindset of the era, that it's depicting. And I thought that I appreciated that stylistic choice. Mm-hmm. A couple other things about it. Like I said, I'm not a big David Lynch fan. I don't have loyalties to David Lynch's body of work. So watching it, I was kind of like, it wasn't even like I was looking for David Lynch isms or anything. Mm-hmm. But I did notice like one thing that stuck out to me was that like there's one scene where kind of the quote unquote bad guys of the movie they come to John Merrick's like room, and they basically ridicule him, like a huge group of people ridicule him and make fun of him and basically treat him as a sideshow in a circus while they're in his own room and everything, and they're laughing, and it's very, very surreal, like David Lynch likes to do. But the tone of that particular scene, like every like heartfelt scene between him and Anthony Hopkins or Anne Bancroft or whomever in the movie, like the more heartfelt, like serious scenes that show him as like an intellectual thinking human being as opposed to this freak show in a circus, like all of that has this weight to it of being serious in tone. And then you have like one of the more emotionally devastating scenes where he's being ridiculed and made fun of and everything, and you have like, instead of carrying that same weight in like in a different way, in a dramatic fashion, it's more kind of a silly, like the music is very melodic, I guess. Okay. And it's kind of like, it's treated as like it's like we are being put into the entertained way of thinking of the characters that are ridiculing him, and I feel like that's a mistake because it's his movie, and I feel like it would have been more, affecting if like we were viewing that or experiencing that portion of the movie through the perspective of John Merrick instead of from the perspective of the people that are treating him like something other than a human being. Okay. Which now, like saying that out loud and phrasing it like that, I can see that that's maybe the point, I guess, that we're in the perspective of the people that are treating him like garbage, but it didn't have an effect on me the way that it would have if it was more kind of emotionally devastatingly focused on John Merrick. Okay. But yeah, and the movie kind of meanders a little bit. Granted, again, I was distracted. Like my head was not in the right space, but I kind of felt like toward the end it was just kind of, it dragged on a little bit. But I will say the ending, like the last 20 to 30 minutes, where the character gets, he gets recognition for who he is as a person, as well as fighting for that recognition in a separate scenario. Mm-hmm. There's like a famous line where he lashes out and says that he's a human being. Like it's very heartfelt. Like the last like few sequences in the movie, him confronting the people that are ridiculing him being recognized, and then him, like the last scene involving him. in the movie. I won't spoil it or anything. Those are all very heartfelt, very touching moments that maybe if I was more mentally invested in the movie, which again is my own fault. Like that's not a reflection of the movie. It's just I was not in the right headspace. But I think that if I was more emotionally and mentally, invested in the movie, I think that it would have carried a lot more weight those last few sequences. So yeah, I thought it was really good, but really good, bordering on really okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Tiny, you've seen it a couple of times, but it's been a while.
It's been a while. I really wish I could have rewatched it for this episode. I really loved it the first time I saw it, and upon a second viewing, I think I maintained that opinion.
Okay.
But I think it's been like 6-7 years since I've seen this movie. But a lot of it sticks with me for good reason. It's a very memorable film. Mm-hmm. And so there's so many things about the movie that I am blown away by. I like the fact that they didn't sugarcoat like anything in this movie, because it's a hard story to tell because it's so, for lack of a better word, horrific.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're off base at all to say that it's hard to watch because he's such a horribly disfigured person. Like it's one of those things where you actually want to look away. And what amazed me about the movie is that by the end of the movie, I didn't feel that way anymore. Yeah. Because like you said, they humanize him so much and he becomes a person that you see past all of that, for lack of a better word, gore. Yeah. That he's plagued with. And I think another thing about the movie that just blew me away, I think I knew it was a true story and that, the Elephant Man was a real man. But I didn't understand the depths of it and how disturbing the story was. And the movie really solidified that for me. And just the fact that this was a real man. This was a real story that happened. Like it's so extraordinary that someone had to make a movie about it. This had to be out there because it's, the condition that John Merrick had, that wasn't his real name, Joseph something or other. But it's so rare that I don't know the actual numbers, but the condition that he had is so rare. There's only been a couple of other people since him that have been discovered to have this, and it's so rare they don't really know what it was. Yeah. But they think he had like three horribly rare conditions that combined together to make him so disfigured, I think. Jesus. That's the theory anyways. They don't actually really know, but like it's such a, I'm just blown away by how extraordinary it is. Like this story is so rare or so extraordinary that it almost shouldn't exist. Right. Right. Cause he's, like you said, he's so horribly disfigured that it's beyond imagination. Yeah. And the tragedy as a result of that is also shocking. Like I think the fact when Dr. Treves finds him and sees John for the first time, it just absolutely wrecks you as a person because of how horribly he's treated. And then it's amazing because his life gets so much better. But then you think back to the context of this incredible person was literally trapped inside of his disfigurement and his, he was defined in every single way 100% by his disfigurement. And it's just such a tragedy because there was this really incredible person underneath. Yeah. In like the like head of the circus or the person that, for lack of a better word, owned him in the sideshow when he was a sideshow performer, like treated him like an animal. Like, treated him so poorly. And there's a scene where Anthony Hopkins like mentions like he's not a dog or something to that effect. Or it says like if you take him back, you're just going to treat him like a dog or something. And it's just like it's really really hammers home the kind of the terrible lot in life that he has. Right. And it really exemplifies how much better his life becomes as a result of, Right.
being pulled out from that and introduced to, regular society and compassionate, empathetic people.
Right. And I also think that was why it was important to film it in black and white, because it's sort of a simplistic analogy, but his life transitions from the deepest, darkest blackness you can almost imagine to he's so happy in the end.
Right.
And just by simply being given an identity and being allowed to be a person, he's so happy. Like the contrast is literally black and white.
Right.
Like I said, it's simplistic and almost a juvenile analogy, but it's effective, I think. And honestly, I was looking through the history and like the trivia and stuff. I might be wrong about this, but I want to say that the ultimate decision to film it in black and white was actually a technical one, because
really,
I think when they tried to do the actual shading of like color for his makeup, they couldn't get it to work. Like
interesting.
It looked too fake when they tried to make his skin tone actually like, full color. So they were like, well, we have to film it in black and white because we can't get this tone to work. That's what I thought. I don't know if that's true.
I could see that being the case.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyways, I think Dr. Treves, the real Dr. Treves, has wrote a book about this, and I've always wanted to read it or just learn more about the real Elephant Man. Just because, like I said, it's one of the most unique stories you'll ever read, one of the most unique stories you'll ever hear. Because it's so rare that this what happened to this man is so rare that it almost shouldn't have happened. It's so rare it shouldn't exist.
Right.
Like one of those kinds of things. So that's what blew me away about the movie. I'm looking on IMDb. I gave this a 10 out of 10. However many years ago when I saw it. So
nice.
I really have to watch it again.
Yeah. On Letterboxd, I think I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5.
Okay. Nice.
I'll probably have to revisit it down the road.
Yeah.
This is an interesting piece of trivia, though, that I just read on IMDb. Following the death of the real Joseph John Merrick, parts of his body were preserved for medical science to study. Some internal organs were kept in jars, and plastic casts were taken of his head, an arm, and a foot. Although the organs were destroyed by German air raids during World War II, the casts survived and are kept at the London Hospital. The makeup for Sir John Hurt, who played Merrick in this film, was designed directly from those casts.
Right. That's cool.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. I think there's also the model that he builds throughout the movie. I think that's a real thing, and it's actually on display somewhere.
Oh, nice.
And it was like an incredibly detailed, difficult thing to do that like it's hard for people who don't have disabilities to put it together, and he managed to do it. So yeah, I'm just incredibly fascinated by the real life story, and I love the way it was captured on film. I think I'd have to see it again to mention any criticisms I have of it, but I think Roger Ebert, famously, he was like, yeah, it's a really good movie, but I think he famously criticized it for being a little bit too sentimental or like too, emotional or something like that. Like,
yeah,
I can't remember exactly what he said, but, cause it was
I could see that.
Critically lauded film. Like everyone loved it, and it was nominated for like 8 Oscars or something like that.
Right.
And it just, everyone loved it, and it was all praise. And he was like, yeah, it's a phenomenal film, one of the best films of the year, but I think he ended up I think he took a little bit of flack for his minor criticism of something about it. I can't, and if it is about the sentiment, I can understand, because it's kind of, it's almost like, without spoiling it, like it's a very kind of happy ending, and it's, it is a little bit like, oh, he's I hate to say it, or it's mean to say it, but he's like the ugliest man that's ever lived, but he ended up having such a wonderful life in the end, or whatever. It is a bit airy, or I don't really know what the adjective is. It's kind of overly sentimental, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe I misread the ending.
Oh, really?
But we'll have to talk off mic, because I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it either.
But I will say that I did look up, Ebert's review of The Elephant Man. He gave it 2 out of 4 stars.
Oh, wow.
And a part of his review says, I I kept asking myself what the film was really trying to say about the human condition as reflected by John Merrick, and I kept drawing blanks. The film's philosophy is this shallow, wow, the Elephant Man sure looked hideous, and gosh, isn't it wonderful how he kept on in spite of everything? Yeah, so
I knew it was quasi-famous for something like that. Like it's a little simplistic or something like that.
yeah, it is kind of straightforward like that. That reminds
Right.
me, I really need to read Ebert's reviews.
He was a one of a kind.
Yeah, Ebert or John Merrick?
Ebert.
Yeah.
Well, both. I mean, but
Yeah.
Roger Ebert. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've wanted to get in the habit of looking up his reviews from like older movies, obviously, and reading them after I watch them. But
Totally.
anyway.
Well, I'm glad you watched The Elephant Man. It makes me want to watch it again, having discussed it. I know Paige will not watch this movie.
Right.
So I have to sneak it in somewhere. I own it on DVD.
Nice.
But all my DVDs are packed up at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad you finally watched it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you recommended it to me. Yeah, and yeah, I have no regrets from watching it. It's just I was not in the right headspace, but I did appreciate.
Yeah.
I appreciated parts of it. I'll say that.
Okay. Yeah, the timing for this episode was a little
Terrible.
inopportune at the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and it sucks because it has to be episode 250.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, inopportune, but I'm glad that we did it. Yeah, so, Potpourri?
Yes, Potpourri.
Okay, cool. And also, let us know what your favorite IMDb top 250 movie is, I guess. I don't know. Also follow us on Letterboxd. I'm at Obsessive Viewer. Tiny's at Obsessive Tiny. Mike is at I am Mike White. Yeah, Letterboxd is awesome. So, Potpourri. I have two things. You have one thing?
Yes.
Okay. So I am going to, I can't think of a pun. I have two things. My first thing that I'm going to say is, I'll go ahead and talk about Venom. Venom is, by the way, Potpourri is a section of the podcast where we kind of wind down and talk about things we've watched lately, things we're looking forward to, anything we want to look, as long as it smells good. It's Potpourri. So my first Potpourri for this episode is Venom. The PG-13 Sony, movie in association with Marvel. That is the, it follows a trend that doesn't exist, or it's gonna kickstart what I think is gonna be a trend of having, the very wise decision of making a superhero movie without the superhero.
Yeah.
And only having the villain. So I guess Suicide Squad kind of did that too.
Right.
So I will say this. Tiny, what did you think of the trailers for Venom?
Meh.
I was the same way. None of the trailers did anything for me. I thought that Tom Hardy's performance in the trailers was really off and weird. Like the accent that he was doing was weird.
Yeah.
I wasn't into it. So naturally, since I have A-list, I went ahead and saw Venom, opening weekend. My God, this movie was fun.
Yeah.
I had so much fun watching Venom, and not like, oh, it's so bad it's good. Like, it's not good. It's not a great movie. Mm-hmm. It's borderline bad, just as a film, but it's so much fun to watch in such a weird way. Like, Tom Hardy in the trailer, I couldn't get on board with what he was doing, but in the actual movie, I was so on board with every choice that he was making. He was having fun with the role. He was playing Eddie Brock as this kind of timid wise ass kind of character.
Okay.
Or timid and reserved. But I don't know how to describe it. But he does this affectation on his voice that's so goofy and weird, but for some reason, I don't know why, but it works for me. Like,
okay.
It's really entertaining. The visual effects are fine. There's a chase sequence that's shown in the trailer where he's on a motorcycle and he's being chased by people. Mm-hmm. nothing to write home about. A lot of tight shots, so it's. I feel like that's to cut corners on special effects, maybe.
Right.
And it's kind of incoherent. You can't really tell what's going on. But again, like, Tom Hardy is really good.
Nice.
In such a campy, weird way. And the most fun part of the movie is that, when the symbiote attaches itself to Eddie Brock, Venom has a voice, and he's in Eddie's head, and they have conversations, and it's so weird and so funny, and so, like, there's one scene that I was, like, kind of howling with laughter, and it's just this stupid juvenile, like, joke line that has no business being in the movie, but it's just so, it reminds me of the scene in Iron Man 3 when Tony Stark is talking to the kid, and the kid is saying, like, yeah, my dad left, and Tony Stark's like, yeah, big deal, dad's leave, no need to be a pussy about it.
Yeah.
It's that same type of joke, and it works so well. And the fact that it's being played between a character and an alien character is just wacky.
Yeah.
The kind of villain of the movie is Riz Ahmed's character. He does fine. He's okay. He does have this kind of interesting pleasantness to his evilness. Like he's a sociopath. He doesn't care about other people, but he has like scenes where he's, kind of in PR mode and like he's talking to kids and he's, talking about trial tests for the symbiotes and everything that you almost want to believe him. That he has like best intentions for humanity and everything in mind.
Right.
But it's fine. And like the climactic like fight sequence kind of harkens back to like the fight sequence between Incredible Hulk and Abomination in the Incredible Hulk, but with Ed Norton.
Okay.
It's just that kind of just two big ass like creature characters just duking it out. It's kind of a lot of fun.
Okay.
Michelle Williams is also in this.
Oh man, I forgot she was in this.
Yeah, I don't know what, like she does fine. She's okay because we here at the Obsessive Viewer love Michelle Williams.
Yes.
But she's not really given much to work with, but what she's given is kind of fun and kind of good.
Okay.
The scenes between Eddie Brock and Venom that are in relation to Michelle Williams' character are one of the highlights of the movie because it turns into something kind of completely different for like a brief moment here and there.
Okay.
And it comes out of left field and it's so weird. And I think it's part of that is, I'm sure that like hardcore comic book fans will hate the movie because it's so against what I assume Venom as a character is. Cause he's, an evil, like he's a villain character. He's like, he's a crazy villain character, but like he's, like his relationship with Eddie Brock in this movie is kind of a, no pun intended, a symbiotic relationship. And it's like they kind of help each other out in unique ways. And it's weirdly humanizing for the symbiote character of Venom.
Right.
But yeah, again, I had a blast with this movie. It was so much fun. I'm probably not going to buy it. I'll see it again if it hits Netflix or something. But I was pleasantly surprised.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's Venom. Go see it. It made a ton of money. Oh, that's the other, like, kind of anecdote I was going to say about that. In the movie, once the symbiote gets into Eddie Brock, he has the Venom voice in his head and they have conversations back and forth. About midway through the movie, like, I had a weird symbiote, like, experience.
Okay.
Like, because I was sitting there and then like I heard a voice in my head say, "Man, I would watch more Venom movies with Tom Hardy in it. Like I hope that there's more movies." And he reprises his role. And then like I was like, "Wait, who the fuck said what the fuck? Oh, that was me. Okay, okay, sure."
That's funny.
So yeah, yeah, and also final thought on that in the trailer. Me and Kirsten, at least, I think, ridiculed the, like, last line of the trailer where Venom, like, tells this guy that he's gonna eat his head and his arms and his legs, and he's gonna float down the street like a turd in the wind.
What?
Yeah. Have you not seen that trailer?
I don't think I have.
Yeah, that's a line in the movie.
Oh my god.
Venom tells a person that he's going to be a turd in the wind.
That's
after,
not good.
Yeah. It's so stupid. It's beyond stupid. By the time it reaches that moment in the movie, I was kind of like, okay, that's fine. It's okay. It's fine.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Venom. It was fun. When I saw it at AMC, they had like an exclusive AMC like Venom comic that they gave I threw it away. I didn't read it, but but yeah. So anyway, that's Venom.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you have any interest in seeing it? Do you think you'll ever see it?
Yeah, I'll definitely see it. Yeah, at some point, because I was a fan of. I actually had like a handful of Venom comics when I was a kid, and they were not. First of all, not intended for children, which I think why a lot of people are pissed that it was PG-13.
Yeah,
it should have been rated R because it was a very graphic character in the comics. It's like I remember as a kid, like reading through some of those comics, and I was like, whoa. Yeah. So. I kind of have a bit of, and I enjoyed those comics a lot. Mm-hmm. So I have a bit of nostalgia for the character. So I'm definitely going to see it. I don't know if it'll be in theaters, but
yeah, there are better things in theaters to see.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely want to see it. Yeah. For my potpourri, I have another thing that's very fun, but objectively pretty dumb.
Okay.
So I stumbled upon this show that's on the History Channel. It's been on the History Channel since 2015, which I was surprised at. Oh, wow. Yeah, so it's in its 4th or 5th season. The show is called Forged in Fire. Mm-hmm. The premise of the show is they invite 4 blacksmiths or variations on that, on the blacksmithing trade. And they are challenged with using a certain kind of metal or steel to fashion a knife or a blade of some kind, and it has to meet certain parameters, and then they test their knife or blade and we wheeled it down to 2 competitors, and they're kind of the 2 victors, and then they have another challenge where they get to go back to their own blacksmith shop back home, and they have 5 days to build a different weapon, and then they test that weapon. So I do a lot of YouTubing, and I actually follow like a handful of like actual knife makers, people who make knives and other weapons, swords, and stuff like that.
Not creepy.
No, not at all. I just think it's a fascinating craft.
Yeah.
Very fascinating craft, and it's based 100% on skill. It's not like learning how to flip burgers at McDonald's.
Yeah. It's not like an assembly line.
It's
art.
It's art. And I just find it very interesting, and it's not funny or like a joke when I watch the YouTube videos, but when they turn it into this competition, it's so like over the top.
Really?
Because the host is ridiculous. He's like this super chiseled jawline kind of guy, white dude, and he speaks with this very powerful voice. He's like, blacksmiths, you have 1 hour left, and like says it like really, and he's constantly has his hands like this while he's talking.
Okay.
It's weird.
Like,
I wish I could show you guys.
Like kind listeners. Of in a weird upside down diamond in front of his stomach.
Yeah. And he'll talk with his hands, and then he'll always return to that pose. It's weird. Okay. Like Paige noticed it when we were watching it, and I was like, "What the f?" Like I didn't pick up on it first, but once I noticed it, I couldn't stop looking at it.
See it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just way too intense.
Jeez.
And so it's funny because when they finally get to like test their knives, they have to go through like pretty much like a gauntlet of like testing. Like you have to cut this thing, and now you have to get through this thing, and then get through this thing, and it's like. It is 100% the fantasy of a 10-year-old boy. You get to take a giant sharp knife and destroy things. Nice. And these guys get way too fucking excited and they ruin it. Like they incur all these penalties because they're so excited that they get to smash through a bunch of watermelons with a knife that they miss half of them because they're so excited. And then what adds to it is when I think of a blacksmith, I think of strapping, burly guy with a beard.
Yeah.
Very, very manly. Very, you know, hard thing to do. It's challenging. It's predominantly male macho kind of thing. It is amazing. 99% of the people they get to come on this show are like total like scrawny hipster dudes.
Really?
Older, very overweight, not athletic at all, burly older guys.
I could kind of see the hipsters.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
oh yeah.
Oh, I want to learn blacksmithing.
Right.
Yeah. It's just, it's, you know.
I knew it before it was cool or whatever. But it's just like, maybe I've watched like 3 or 4 episodes of it, and there's been like maybe 2 dudes who were like what I would envision a blacksmith to be.
Okay.
Everyone else, it's just like, I was like, it's like a dude with glasses and like a fucking Batman hat and a ponytail, and he's like blacksmithing. I'm like, what the really? That's the blacksmith guy? Like, it just doesn't. And so then they get to go through these childhood fantasies, and it's like this guy who looks like he plays D&D for a living, and he's chopping through he's chopping through a group of onions, and he's so excited that like this guy actually did this. He like chopped through them, and he was like, like he like audibly was like, like grunted like an animal.
Wow.
And Paige and I just lost it.
That's awesome.
Oh my God, it was so funny. Like, anytime either of us, like, do something physical, like the other day I picked up a basket of laundry and, like, set it down, and I was like, wow. Like, we've been doing that for, like, 2 weeks now, cause we just crack each other up with it. It's
awesome.
It's kind of fascinating because, like I said, it's truly a craft, and it's a difficult thing to do, and, like, I appreciate the art of it, but they just overblow this whole thing, and it's a fucking cartoon.
Yeah.
It's so silly. It's pure entertainment though. Like, I don't like reality TV.
Right.
I don't really watch basically any of it, but every once in a while I'll stumble upon something like this that it's just wildly entertaining.
Nice.
And I'm not even saying that it's like good television, but it's just, we've watched several episodes, and we're probably like we've set recordings up. We're gonna keep watching it, and it has a bunch of variations. There's one that's like I think it's special this season. It's hosted by Bill Goldberg of professional wrestling.
Oh, that guy,
like Goldberg.
Okay,
yeah.
You said Bill Goldberg, and for some reason I thought my mind went to Gary Cole because I thought you said Bill Lumberg.
Oh my God,
that's weird.
No. So it's him and this like ex-Navy SEAL dude, and they're way too intense, but it's basically all of the champions who have won the episodes of Forged in Fire come in and basically they're having like a tournament. And it's arguably more over the top than the show. It is, I'm telling you, it is just pure entertainment. It's really funny.
And it's called Forged in Fire.
Forged in Fire.
History
Channel. The competition one with Goldberg is called Knife or Death.
Okay. I can respect that.
Oh man, it is. And like, I'm not trying to shit all over, like saying I'm not saying it's so bad it's good. I'm not saying that, but it's very entertaining.
It's a good way to spend half hour or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should I wrap us up with my second potpourri?
Please do.
Okay, so this will be brief because honestly, maybe it'll be brief. Maybe I'll go on a tangent. We'll see. Tiny, let me preface this. Do you watch This Is Us?
No. Okay. I've seen some of it though. Paige watched a little bit of it.
Okay. Yeah. I don't watch it either. I gave it 2 episodes. Granted, and I will say this, that's not enough to give a really good indicator. Like, that's not a good... It's not, I don't have a good gauge for what the quality of the show actually is. But based on those first 2 episodes, I made some what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, I made some assumptions about the show that led me just not to want to watch anymore. So, to kind of give you a quick rundown, This Is Us, and This Is Us is not my potpourri. I'm kind of leading up toward that. So This Is Us as a TV show, those assumptions that I had based on those 2 episodes is that it is a kind of manipulative to the audience. And it is more concerned with manipulating its audience into into getting emotional responses out of the audience rather than earning it through
quality storytelling.
Yeah, quality storytelling, good characterization. And a couple examples of that is that the first episode of the entire series of This Is Us, there are two dueling narratives going on at the same time. Mandy Moore and Vila, whatever, are about to have a baby, and then a brother and sister are dealing with their own stuff. One of my big gripes about the show is that it's revealed later that like it's two timelines and it's a big twist, I guess. So spoiler alert. But it's a few years old at this point. But so that's kind of the hook of the show. My problem is in those first two episodes, like it just seemed like the characters were just completely one note, like not developed well. Like there's I don't know the actress's name, but she plays the sister. Like she's an overweight woman in the show. In those first two episodes, every single thing about her character goes back to her struggling with weight loss. Like that is the only definable thing about her character in 2 episodes of a television show. On the other hand, her brother is like an actor who just got fired off of a job. And again, in those first 2 episodes, that is the only piece of characterization about that character. Sterling K. Brown is looking for his father, his estranged father or whatever, or birth father.
Biological father.
Yeah. Biological father. There you go. That's the only character trait that his character has in those first 2 episodes. Not to say that they don't get developed later or anything, because I'm sure that they do, but when you're trying to hook an audience and you're just contingent, or you're just writing toward getting to the end of the episode where there's a twist, because again, there is a big twist at the end of the second episode, it just seems cheap and manipulative and just not good storytelling. So I say all of that because the creator of This Is Us, Dan Fogelman, wrote and directed a movie called Life Itself.
Right.
Yes. So this movie stars Olivia Wilde, Oscar Isaac, Olivia Cook, and some other people I'm blanking on. Was Antonio Banderas in it? Yeah. It is a story about interconnected, like, it's like different intersecting storylines that are happening that span generations.
Okay.
So it starts out with Oscar Isaac and Olivia Wilde. They're married. She's pregnant. They're about to have a kid. There's a tragedy or something happens that causes Oscar Isaac to go on a downward spiral. So all of that, like, is in the first 10 minutes of the movie. And it's interesting and engaging enough to where, like, oh, if they make the whole movie about these characters, that would be cool. Nope. Done. Go to the next set of characters. Olivia Cook is I don't know, a college-age girl that's kind of rebellious. She's in a punk band. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Okay. Oh, she's connected to, this is how she fits into the story. And then boom, go to the next one. It's like, and all of it leads to, like, all of the characters, they aren't well developed at all. Like, they're poorly written characters, and every single one seems like it's being written toward tragedy or reactions to tragedies, and it's the exact thing that I had a problem with This Is Us. It's like the characters aren't the focal point of the show or of the movie because the screenplay is trying to emotionally manipulate us into getting an emotional reaction out of us by just purely storytelling, by hitting poignant storytelling moments without earning them. So instead of developing the characters so that when, this one character has something tragic happen to him, we feel for him because we know this character and everything. Instead of that, we have, this character that we don't really know just had something terrible happen to him. But let's go to this other character that has nothing to do with him, or maybe they do. Spoiler alert, they do, because the movie doesn't fuck all to conceal like what it's leading toward. Like, you can see the ending coming a mile away, and it's supposed to be this profound, like, oh, these are, like, people are connected. This is the whole, and it's so stupid. The title, Life Itself, which is the title of the Roger Ebert documentary and memoir, has no connection. Like, it's just a coincidence that's the title of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that this movie is titled Life Itself is because Olivia Wilde's character is writing her thesis on narrative or literature or something, and her thesis is that life itself is the universe's unreliable narrator. And they don't really expound on that, because why would you, when you are just pointing characters toward tragic events to get to your hackneyed fucking meet cute at the end of the movie.
That's deep.
Yeah, it's like, and the movie addresses that, because it's like, oh yeah, she failed. Like, she did terrible. I don't know, maybe that was just wishful thinking on my part, but yeah, it wasn't a good movie. It was terrible. I've seen people compare it on like Letterboxd and on IMDb and all over the place. I've seen people compare it to Collateral Beauty, which was that Will Smith movie from a couple years ago that I vehemently hated,
right?
And felt like as a refresher, that movie, spoiler alert for Collateral Beauty, the movie's about Will Smith losing his daughter, and then his business partners hiring actors to pretend that they're like the physical embodiment of like concepts, so that they could manipulate him into selling his company or something.
Right.
Completely manipulative, like just shitty, like horrible movie, and incredibly manipulative and despicable. So I have much stronger feelings toward Collateral Beauty than I do for Life Itself.
Okay.
But the thing that I said in my Letterboxd review is that I don't see Life Itself isn't as egregiously terrible as Collateral Beauty, but I would say that the screenplay, or like the script for Life Itself is as manipulative as the characters of Collateral Beauty.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a terrible movie. Don't see it. And I mean, This Is Us is like a huge, successful show. I don't get it.
Yeah.
More power to you if you like it, but Life Itself is just going to be more of the same, so maybe you might like it, but there was nothing for me in this movie. So,
okay.
Yep.
I've seen a few episodes and tidbits of This Is Us, and I'm not prepared to call it a bad show.
Okay.
But I don't think it's particularly good.
Mm-hmm.
I think people think it's better than it is.
Yeah.
It's just like, it feels like it's going for, whoa, drama.
Yeah.
This is so dramatic. Look at how dramatic this is. This is the most dramatic thing ever. And
right.
It feels way overdone to me. But I don't think it's shitty, or like I can understand why people like it. I'll put it that way. I can understand why casual fans might like it.
Right.
You know
what's interesting, and this will be the final thing, and we can shut it down for the night. Because another thing that I watched is The Good Place. Season 2 finally hit Netflix.
Okay.
Incredible. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen a comedy quite like this show before.
Okay. Wow.
Incredible show. Very funny, very, the concept is Kristen Bell is dead, and she is sent to the good place, which is basically heaven. But it's due to a mix-up, and she's supposed to be in the bad place. So, the show is basically her trying to conceal the fact that she's actually supposed to be in hell.
Okay.
But it goes a lot deeper and funnier than that. But the funny thing is that This Is Us uses a dual narrative kind of structure, employs flashbacks and apparently flash forwards, and everything. And then also The Good Place deals with some hefty concepts of like good versus evil, like what makes you inherently good, like philosophical kind of things. It's just like these two, and obviously you know where I'm probably going to go with this, but it's funny because like these two shows kind of harken back to the style of Lost, like, back in the day. So anyway, that's just my way to shamelessly mention Lost on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that'll about do it, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Tiny, what do you think our listeners should do on Friday?
They should go to this thing called Shocktober in Irvington.
They should.
Bring cash to buy booze.
Yes, we are going to have a cash bar courtesy of Tony at Geeking in Indiana. And, once again, one night event screening, short horror films, local filmmakers. We have a bunch of great raffles or like prizes to raffle off. Several Funko Pops that were graciously donated to us by our friend Matt and Draco.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, we have some great films lined up. We've got JP Leck from, Elsewhere World. He's got a great short film that, it has a certain, performance in it that, if you're listening to this, you might recognize. But it's awesome because like the credits say like in introducing Matt Hurt as
Nice.
Adam Palm.
Awesome.
But anyway, we've got a couple of short films from Fair Creek Films from last year. They were in Shocktober in Irvington with us. And we also have the return of Snapshot Productions, their short film Don't Open the Door, directed by Jared Bridgman. That's going to be a blast to have them back and to screen their short film. And then also we have Cameron Grimm and 5 After 5 Productions in their short film The Man Who Loved Flowers. You can hear me interview the cast and crew of that short film over on Tower Junkies. Last year I was able to go to the set and visit them and everything and kind of watch them film the short film based on a Stephen King short story. So we've got a lot of cool stuff planned. It's going to be a blast. We have limited seating, so buy your tickets now, shocktoberinirvington.com. It'll be a fun night. So that's October 12th, 2018 at Playground Production Studios, 8 p.m. Doors open at 7:30. Once again, shocktoberinirvington.com. Tiny, any parting thoughts?
Nope.
All right, great. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to The Obsessive Viewer, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find more of our episodes at ovpodcast.com, and you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or anywhere else podcasts are found. If you'd like to support the show, the best and easiest way is to leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. More ratings and reviews means it'll be easier for people to find the show in the highly competitive film and TV podcast genre. It also provides us with valuable feedback on the show. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a one-time PayPal donation at obsessiveviewer.com/donate or become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for recurring donations with different reward tiers. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, notebooks, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can also buy other great TeePublic designs in our store, and we'll get a small commission on the sale. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. The Obsessive Viewer's theme song is An Eclipse of Events and is provided by Loudlike from their EP, Mistakes We Must Make. You can find that and more great music from them on iTunes and like their Facebook page at facebook.com/loudlikemusic. Any and all feedback on the podcast is encouraged. We love to hear from you guys. You can contact us by emailing podcast@obsessiveviewer.com or by tweeting us at obsessiveviewer, at obsessivetiny, and at IamMikeWhite. You can also like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer, where you can take part in discussions and polls between episodes. For more podcast content, check out Anthology, Matt's solo podcast, where he's reviewing The Twilight Zone as a first-time viewer and exploring other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows. You can find Anthology at anthologypod.com and anywhere podcasts are found. For book lovers, you can check out our sister site at obsessivebooknerd.com for book reviews, author spotlights, and a general celebration of reading. Finally, if you're philosophically curious, check out Tiny's side project podcast, The Secular Perspective, which explores the concepts of faith, religion, and existence from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda. You can find that at thesecularperspective.com and subscribe to the podcast on the app of your choice. Once again, thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Kitty!